My audience is across all platforms now, so should be good.
Well, good morning. Welcome to Big Cube Sunday morning. I just got a call from uh oh, I misunderstood a message I got. I told him I had the con crud. I went to a radcon and picked up the con crud, and somebody told me that they had a COVID test. And then I thought they said they were positive, and that's not what I was looking for today. But I am here with the one and the only Jim Wright, and we have a David Gerrold is coming back to join us. He is currently doing a little bit of retro science fiction work where he's practicing using a giant vibrating ball and that to do the voice. Now, Jim, I see you've got your good coffee cup out. I love those cups. So,
Yeah, they're good. They keep the coffee warm for a long time.
so the Ukraine. I just saw the news this morning. I did not realize that Ukraine had started the Ukrainian war with Russia.
Yeah. You're just right into it. We're not even going to warm up. You're just going to jump right there, aren't you, Bob? Yeah.
Oh, come on!
I mean, for God's sake.
Okay. Wait, something softer, something
Oh
softer.
yeah, that's what she said. Listen,
So
dude.
so I understand that the mayor of New York has is not going. Oh, that's not your idea, softer. Well,
No, keep. Look, that's the thing. It's funny. That's actually the thing here is the fact that there's just so much shit with this guy, man. Every day it's something else. It's just, I mean, the guy's been in office for a month. We got 47 months to go, assuming that he actually leaves office when this shit show is over. And my God, I don't even know if I'm going to live that long. I swear to God, man. Only been in office for 30 days, and it feels like forever. I mean, we went through 4 years of this bullshit. But the problem is that Americans are ADHD. They got a fucking short term memory, and after 4 years of Joe Biden, they're like, well, we're bored. Government's boring. A little excitement. The news media, we're not getting enough clicks and likes. There's enough drama in the news. And we were reelected as asshole. Now, 30 days later, my feeds are full of people going, oh, yeah, wait a minute. I remember why we got rid of this guy. I swear, this is America hooked up with their shitty ex and then remembered 30 days into the new relationship why they got rid of this asshole in the first place. And this time he's 10 times worse. I mean, Jesus, man. And every day it's just a barrage of bullshit to the point where and you can't even pick out the crazy stuff. I mean, it's all crazy. It's all 100% insane. You literally have Elon fucking Musk, and I'm not even going to apologize for my language anymore because that's the least offensive thing that's happening in the world right now. But you got Elon Musk sending out an email to 2 million government employees yesterday saying, "Hey, list everything that you did all week, or you're fired." Now, who the hell's reading 2 million emails? And this is a guy that's supposed to be talking about government efficiency, and his whole bit is, hey, I'm in charge of government efficiency. Fill out my bullshit survey that doesn't do anything. Take a couple of minutes to do that. Jesus Christ, man. I swear to God, this is like TQL on steroids. I don't know how many of you people ever lived through that bullshit. But for a long time, I swear to God, for about 20 years, about 10 years, the goddamn military was just absolutely obsessed with TQL or TQM or whatever the hell they called it, total quality bullshit, which Detroit used to make cars. And somehow some wise guy somewhere in the Pentagon decided that was something that all of us in the military had to do. And instead of actually, and they kept talking, you'd sit through these lectures on efficiency and maximizing your time and fishbone diagrams and Gantt charts and 20 people. They take 20 of the top performing people in the outfit and make them sit in a room for 6 months coming up with a mission statement. And all those mission statements were the same bullshit. They were how can we optimize and leverage our synergy in the battle space in the 21st? I mean, it was all just fucking endless bullshit bingo terms. And I swear to God, if it didn't have synergy in it, you were screwed. Meanwhile, the mission ain't getting done. And that's exactly what's going on here. These guys talk about government efficiency, and it's the same managerial flim flam magic show that's run by people who don't actually know how to manage anything. And that's who Elon Musk is. Oh my God, he's a billionaire. He's the richest man in the world. He must be a business genius. Donald Trump, he's put how many casinos out of business? He must be a business genius. They're not business geniuses. They were born on third base, and everybody acts like they hit a home run. These people are dipshits. Elon Musk is going to be the dumbest son of a bitch on the planet. It's just the fact that he's rich and everybody kisses his ass. Hi, David. Glad to see you. You're just in time to save me from having a stroke. Or maybe he's not there.
Oh, well, don't worry, Jim. We're all here to save you from having a stroke because you don't
I'm
want
not
you
hearing
to.
anything.
Oh, I swear to God, man. At this point, it's just gonna get. We're just saturated every day. It is just
Wait a minute, let's
endless
see if
bullshit.
That's the point of it.
And right, and the thing. Well, I don't even know if they have a point. These people should have coins printed up that say "ass backwards into the unknown" because that's what they're doing. I don't think there's a plan. Stephen Miller might have a plan, okay, but Trump doesn't have a plan. He's just loose in the china shop, just knocking shit over. The guy doesn't have a plan. He doesn't know what the hell he's going to have for lunch. And again, these are the same kind of. This is every asshole in every meeting that you've ever been in, who starts out with, "Well, I didn't come here to be liked." Well, good deal, because I hate your goddamn guts. But you're an asshole, man. These are the people. These are the people that you sit through a meeting for an hour and they work out all the problems, and the people that actually know what they're doing sit down and they get everything done, and they hammer out a plan, and everybody would go around the table. Everybody agreed. We're all agreed. And so the guy in charge says, "All right, great, let's get to work." And at that moment, the guy holds up his hand and says, "Not to be the devil's advocate or anything, but..." That's who these people are. They're the asshole in every meeting who thinks they're the devil's advocate. This ain't the Inquisition. You're not a Catholic priest. Sit down. Shut the fuck up. I'm at the point now where I'm obviously tap dancing, waiting for David to come online. I can hear him mumbling, so I'm hoping maybe you can hear us. Can you hear us, David?
Nah.
David's having some technical issues. That was the point of the big vibrating ball earlier. Was that David's having some technical issues? But no. This is I see. Okay, Chief Reed. No, this is me normally. This is me calm. You haven't seen me. The thing is that I guess the part that chaps my ass more than anything else. I've been just pissed off since January 20th. Yes, I did have a birthday. Thanks. The thing is that none of this had to happen, and this is the part that really pisses me off, because my feeds are full of a bunch of lefty liberals all talking about, "We're gonna fight." You're not gonna do shit. And again, I hate to sound like that. And I had somebody yell at me this morning that you're complying in advance. It doesn't make any goddamn difference what I do. We handed the government to Donald Trump and his band of hooligans. We gave him the Senate, the House, and the Supreme Court. So I can sit on this podcast, I can rant all the hell I want, and obviously there are things that we can do. But the reality of the matter is that we're going to go backwards about 30 years in time, and there's not a hell of a lot that any of us can do about it. The point where you could have done something about it was back in November. And all you had to do was show up, and put a dot in a little circle on a ballot. And now a bunch of people that couldn't even be forced enough to show up at the goddamn polling station are telling me they're going to take up arms and fight for freedom. I mean, color me skeptical here. Maybe they will, but I have a hard time believing that if you don't have the wherewithal to at least show up and vote, I have my doubts about you having having the sand to pick up a gun and fight tyranny, man. Maybe I'll be wrong, and I'll be happy to be wrong. And it's happened once or twice in the past, and I've had to admit that I was incorrect. But I just at this point we are barreling down the road to fascism, and I even the press. I look at the press every day, and I this morning I looked at the news aggregator on Google, and I swear to God I had people unfollow me that were mad, sent me hate mail because I bashed the press and said, well, even the AP, man, they're fighting back. Yeah, they got kicked out of the goddamn press room in the White House, and they made some angry noises about that. But if you actually go to the AP website and you look through their articles as a composite, they're doing the same thing as everybody, washing Donald Trump's bullshit, and all of it's like this optimistic tone to it. Can Donald Trump really remake government, make it more efficient? We'll find out. For God's sake, man, come on.
Well, Jim, you know what my little stupid test is? I look at a media report, and if they can't say the word coup, then I know they're just bullshitting me.
David,
Put it in the center or in front of the camera.
Now.
No sound here.
No sound here. Yeah, we can hear you, David. I can hear you breathing into your microphone. But the thing is that now we're in the gorge. David's holding up messages. We're in the gorge. Have you guys seen that movie? I not to break out of politics or anything, but technically we're all science fiction writers. If you haven't seen The Gorge, man, wow, on Apple TV, it's great. That's one of the few movies in a long time that I really just enjoyed. It's not your typical horror movie or your typical adventure movie. It's like a romance with some horror elements in it, which sounds like a Lifetime movie, but that's great, man. I really enjoyed it. The acting's terrific. The interplay is great between the characters, and anyway,
what we got to do, David, if you're going to use notes occasionally, go down and press the gearbox and down below you. There you go. You've now unmirrored so that your notes can be read.
There we go. I got markers, man. I'll send David some messages.
Oh, you gotta love it, because
David, I don't know. Check. I don't. If you, Bob, if you can send David he's gone. If you can send him a message, um, with his interface, he needs to go. I don't think he's using Windows. If he goes to his not the Restream controller, but down in the bottom right hand corner of his Windows interface, if he clicks on that, Restream probably changed his sound output microphone, which is what it typically does to me. So if he changes that back to his speaker,
Jim, can you type that into the private chat?
Sure.
And I'll take and cut it out of there and send it in an email to David.
Sure. And David will be back. You guys that are talking, David will be back. He said, David has been running computer systems for 60 years. There's not a lot about it he doesn't know. So I'm usually cautious about offering him advice. All right. Hey, I'll tell him.
Yeah, because I can get it to him. Now, okay, Jim, you know that rant you were just on?
No, which one? There's about three of them. Which one are we talking about?
Marvelous. I've got my dogs going crazy.
Man, this is a real professional operation. You gotta, you really got to do it. I don't know, and now I'm all alone. Now it's just me, all alone on the line. Thanks for coming, everybody, and drive safe. I'm going to go back outside and feed the birds and take pictures. But yeah, this has been a hell of a week, and the worst part about it is that it's 1 week out of four. I mean, I don't even remember where the hell we were 2 weeks ago. Now, this guy's hacking
Okay.
government apart in pieces, but he's also this is a guy that basically just sold one of our allies down the river to our one of our worst adversaries. I don't want to say enemy here, but I use the Pentagon term adversary. I mean, our commander in chief, the guy that you elected president, one of the first things he's done in less than a month. We're not even to March yet, and this guy has sold Ukraine down the river. I mean, sold them out, and basically, I mean, there. I will say this: it is totally on brand for Donald Trump to accuse Ukraine of starting a war where they were the ones that were invaded. Right? That is totally on brand from a guy and a political ideology that every time a woman is sexually assaulted asks, well, what was she wearing? I mean, I don't think I'd expect anything else, but there's a hell of a lot of people out there, and they send me nasty, angry, fucking email every day, and that tell me they just couldn't vote for Joe Biden or they couldn't vote for Kamala Harris, either one of them, because or Democrats in general, because of the genocide in Gaza. And I do not want to downplay what's happening in Gaza at all in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, I had one of these last night where this woman wrote me this nasty email about she's not voting for genocide, so she voted for Trump. I don't even know what the hell to say at this point. I don't know. That's a degree of fanaticism and self delusion that and I get these every day, and and this has gone on since November, and now I've reached a point where I'm so exhausted by this, I can't even respond to this shit anymore. I can't. I, I don't even know what the hell to say because we're a month into this. You can see what's happening. You can see that your silly protest vote made the world a worse place again, and yet somehow it's my fault that your outcome is not what you wanted it to be. And I'm going to say my fault. I don't want to sound like a martyr here, but it's our fault. It's people who warned you, and I don't know. I don't know at what point how bad it has to get before these people grow up and realize that they were wrong. And again, my email is full of people saying, "Well, okay, you were wrong, but it doesn't do any good to say I told you so." Yeah, here's the thing about that. If you don't admit that you were wrong, and you look, if you're wrong once, hey, it happens to all of us. Not the person at 65 that I was at 20. I grant you that, man. Hopefully you get older and you learn the something that Muhammad Ali said is stuck with me for a long time, which he said, if you're the same man you are at 50 as you were at 20, you've wasted 30 years of your life. And I think that's very valid. And so you're a mistakes or to be wrong about things. But if you don't learn from that and you keep doing it over and over again, I mean, if you protest voted in 2016 and let Trump into office, and then you did the same thing 8 years later for the same fucking reasons, you're not learning anything from your mistakes, and the world keeps becoming a worse and worse goddamn place. And I don't know how bad that has to be before you can admit to yourself that you're the one that's causing it to be, you're the one that's making it worse. And again, now I'll get angry emails from people saying, well, the protest vote didn't really matter. It does. Every vote matters. Every
Well,
vote
Jim,
matters, even if it's not just the people who didn't show up or just the lefties who threw their vote in for Trump or gave to Jill Stein or something. It's not just that. It's the entire mindset, and it's not even just the people who voted who didn't vote because they were mad about some conflict on the other side of the world. It's the people who never vote, who expect everybody else to clean up after them, who don't show up. I mean, that's 50% of America or thereabouts. And hey, look who it is.
Yeah, finally, I went through 3 machines, and finally, I figure I'll give one more try for the iPad, and I logged on.
Yeah.
So, all right, so I am here.
oh, thank
Well,
God.
and let me before David starts in, and I'm going to be quiet here and let David talk. But one of the things I do want to say before people send me hate mail is I get it, man, and and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that if you're mad about what's happening in Gaza that you're wrong to feel that way. I don't at all. Good audio. We should be concerned about folks that are in that situation. We should be the country that sets the example. We should not be sending bombs to somebody else to bomb helpless people in a shitty situation like that. I do agree with that. But Americans' foreign policy's been shit forever. That said, if you have cancer and your choices are chemotherapy or radiation or some that you met down on the corner that's selling herbs and some kind of juice that they made out of bugs, if you have cancer, none of your options are good. That's how it is. You're going to have to do something that you don't want to do. You're going to lose all your hair. You're going to spend 20 months taking chemicals into your system. But if you want to beat this shit, then you have to pick one of those options, whether or not. But because the alternative, the guy on the corner selling the magic crystals and beads and the bug juice, that guy's not going to cure you. That Jill Stein guy is not. You're still going to die, and horribly. And this is the thing. And so while none of the options are good, some of those options will lead to better outcomes and may lead to a cure, may lead you to live a long and happy life, or at least let you get your affairs in order. And so this is the situation that we face, and the world is the world and foreign policy and the perversity of humanity is vastly more complicated than you have in cancer. It's as complicated and as personal as that is. And we have to face the fact that the world is not what we want it to be. And sometimes, yeah, you have to choose the option because you get less evil that way. And the problem is, somebody asked me this morning, well, what do we do now? I mean, can we recover from this? Of course, we can recover from this. There's a way to do it quickly, which is what happened in Germany after 4 years of war. They got bombed down into the goddamn Stone Age, and half the world spent the next 30 years rebuilding their country. That's the quick method. Or there's the other method. We go backwards in time 30 years, and then we spend the years recovering from that. And it's slow, and it's painful, and it's uphill, and you're not going to get the outcomes that you want in your fucking lifetime. And if you and you're going to have to stick with it. Now and neither one of those answers are anything that anybody wants to hear. But that's what you're looking at now. We could have avoided all of this, but we didn't.
Well, the thing is what we're looking at is a thing that has been in process since before World War II, when the right wing decided that the United States was a prize for plucking. And World War II actually set their plans back, but they came back with Robert Welch and the John Birch Society, and Fred Koch funded them, and they had a long-term plan. And in high school, we were reading the Blue Book and the Black Book, the John Birch Society, and these people have been following it. Take over the schools, take over the newspapers, take over the media, take over the low level, and build up towards the top. And this is what they've been doing for 50, 60, 70 years. And Nixon was their greatest benefactor, because when Nixon was disgraced, the whole progressive wing of the Republican Party was disgraced, and the right wing moved into that vacuum and brought us Ronald Reagan. And under the Reagan administration, that's when they started ripping up the controls on media, which and brought in Rupert Murdoch, gave him citizenship practically overnight, and he with the intention of creating Fox News. And the billionaires ever since then have been buying up newspapers and TV stations to control the media. And once they could control the media, they can re-educate Americans that Democrats are the enemies. And they've been doing that for 50 years. And the Democrats, unfortunately, have been fighting back with the idea that it's business as usual. And it's never business as usual with fanatics. We almost need to become fanatics in response to them, or at least we need to be as responsible as the 50,000 troops we sent to Europe to shut down Nazi Germany. Or was it more than that? I get confused on the numbers, but either
But
way,
at any one
I
time,
mean, if you ask me my opinion, I say there are peaceful ways to overthrow a tyranny, and in fact, those are more effective than violent ways. And there's a website that lists something like 40 different ways that peaceful revolution has worked. But I fear that because the whole right wing is so invested in their ideas of violence and oppression, that we are headed for violence. That it's unavoidable that we may have peaceful protests, but they're going to come back with violence. Kyle Rittenhouse is and the Proud Boys and the attack on the Capitol. That tells us who these people are. So
yeah, I definitely agree. Violence could. Our country was designed so that we could change our government, we could change our society without revolution, without violence. That was the entire point of being able to amend the Constitution, do those sorts of things. Because the
yes,
founders knew that society would evolve. They couldn't visualize the world that we would live in 250 years later, and they knew that. They weren't stupid people. Some of them were good folks, and some of them were maybe less so. But they all knew that America would have to change as society grew and evolved. And so whether they agree with who we are now as their descendants is irrelevant. They knew that we would not be them. And so they designed a country and a governmental system that could change over time as society itself changed. And instead of that, Americans are so goddamn determined to violence that as you said, I think we've reached a point now that violence is almost inevitable. I don't say it's 100% inevitable. It's entirely possible that we could swing back. And on one hand, that'd be great because I'm getting too old for this shit. I carried a weapon in the service of this country for a long time, and I really don't want to do it again. And but on the other hand, the part of the problem is if we swing back without violence, then everybody on the other side breathes a sigh of relief. Whew, we've avoided another bullet. Looks like I don't have to show up and vote this time either. Thank God somebody else did. And that's the problem with this. We've been going downhill, and again, half the eligible people in this country don't vote. On the other hand, I sit at the corner with these dolts and they can't manage a four-way stop, and God help us all if it's a fucking traffic circle. And I'm thinking, look, these people can't handle a stop sign. Maybe they should be deciding the future of democracy. And again, I'll get angry email telling me that those two things are not the same, but because I love literal people who don't understand analogies. But again, it's funny. And again, the part of the problem is that we we keep dismantling the safety systems, the systems that intelligent, rational people should look at and be warned and take the appropriate action. And we don't do that. I think our founders had a higher opinion of us, their descendants, than we probably deserve. I mean, most rational people would look at Trump, take him at face value back when we had an opportunity to change course and vote appropriately. And we didn't. But then again, like again, one of the principal safeties of our society was supposed to be the free press. The press is the only private enterprise, the only capitalist enterprise given a specific enumerated right in the Constitution, and that was done so that the electorate would have the information they needed to vote appropriately. And yet the goddamn press is gaslighting us every day. I mean, I've watched for the last week the press talk about how Steve Bannon at CPAC, that wasn't a Nazi salute. God damn it, I saw it. I know a Nazi salute when I fucking see one. I mean, if it wasn't a Nazi salute, what was he doing? Pointing to the attic where Jewish people might be hiding? I mean, what the fuck? You know, you know, I mean, you literally have Elon Musk, you literally have, you know, I mean, for God's sake, how many more of these people have to throw this fucking stiff arm salute? No, maybe these people are fucking Nazis. You know, the problem
Well,
is,
you know, Donald Trump used to keep a copy of, he may still do it, keep
Mein
a copy
Kampf,
of
yeah,
Mein Kampf next to his,
yeah.
on his nightstand. The man is, yes, there's some, I mean, let's say, I am speechless. I'm at a loss for words. I cannot describe that man anything I would say, no matter how despicable, would still be a
Right.
compliment.
And when David Gerrold, Hugo Award-winning author for the last 60 years, is at a loss for words, you should be concerned. You know, God damn it. You know, fuck. You know, but again,
It's
I literally I have people saying to me, you know, online, I've got I don't know thousands of emails on threads and people are yelling yesterday, which was someone asked me, will the military follow Donald Trump's orders? Will they fire on Americans? And the answer to that is Wounded Knee, Kent State, Bloody Tuesday, the other Bloody Tuesday, Bloody Thursday. Fuck yes, they'll fire on Americans. I mean, why do you think he's purging the officer corps? Why do you think they went to find a retired fanatical general to be the Joint Chiefs of Staff yesterday, for crying out loud? Of course they're going to fire on Americans. They have fired on Americans even when we had constitutional controls in place. Now, if Trump just orders them to march into Chicago and murder everybody, of course they're probably not going to do that. But but again, that's not how it works. It works little by little. It works. We need to round up the illegals. Now we're not targeting good Americans. We're getting these criminals out of our cities, and so that's why the military is there. Or it's national security, or we got to take on the cartels, or we got to. There's always an excuse for this bullshit. And again, people say, well, you know, they won't follow illegal orders, and that's the part that you're not getting. The orders are not illegal. They come from the commander in chief. And things like posse comitatus, which prevents the commander in chief from using the military to do law enforcement in America, don't apply. And some of you have missed the last 20 years and the laws that we changed after 9/11. And after 9/11, when we were passing things like the Protect America Act and the Patriot Act, that empowered the Department of Defense to take action against American citizens, specifically the intelligence apparatus, who I work for. And we warned you people, we warned America, you don't want to do this. You do not want to remove those safeties and controls and allow the military and the Department of Defense, the National Security Agency to read your mail and your phone calls, the CIA to operate on American soil, the FBI to do things like rendition and warrantless wiretapping. We don't want to do this. And yet 90% of America said, we're scared, man. We're scared. We need these things. Bob, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but you need to mute your microphone. And, but, you know, and here we are. It's 20 years later, and we have an entire generation of Americans who never lived under that kind of freedom, who never lived where there were those kind of controls on our government that prevented the National Security Agency from listening to your phone calls, that prevented the FBI from snatching your ass off the street and sending you to Guantanamo Bay. Rendition is normal to us now. Somebody else. We assume NSA is listening to everything we do, and they are. And the only thing that really protects it is the vast volume of information. They can't go through all of it, just like Elon Musk can't go through 2 million emails this morning. But it's all there. It's all recorded in databases and stored on servers in some goddamn remote location out in Utah or something. And you were warned why those were bad things and why we should not allow that sort of power and why we shouldn't allow that sort of power to be consolidated under the executive branch. And yet here we are. And again, now those things are tools that Trump can use against Americans, and he doesn't have to get anybody's permission. Somebody yelled at me this morning online. I mean, you guys, anybody that's interested, when I say somebody, I know how vague that sounds, but it's on my threads. Take a look at it. And I said to me this morning, well, you have to have a warrant. It's unconstitutional. I mean, I don't know where the hell you've been for the last month, but those limits don't apply anymore. The limits on the executive branch are the legislative branch and the judicial branch. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but both of those belong to Trump now because we didn't show up. It wasn't enough that we handed the white fucking fascist. We handed him the Senate, the House, and last time we let him take over the Supreme Court. And you can't tell me that you weren't warned because I know you were. I was one of the people warning you. And now people say, well, you can't do that. I don't know how many of these people. I sit down here every day and I watch Democratic legislators on when they should be in a goddamn floor of the House and the Senate. They're on social media talking about Trump can't do this. Well, I don't know how to tell you this, fellas. He's doing it.
Help him, David. You're our only
I have
hope.
nothing to say. I mean, I will tell you, I'm 81 years old. I hope I live long enough to watch that man get put up against a brick wall with a firing squad, because that's what we do to traitors. But I just read a thing the other day that Trump was, this goes back to, I think, the 80s or the early 90s, that Trump was facing bankruptcy. He couldn't get any loans in the Western world. And there was some beauty pageant that he took to Moscow. And while he was there, he had a meeting with Putin. And apparently, this is speculation, but apparently Putin guaranteed his loans. And it was after that, it was then he became a puppet for Putin, and Putin realized he could use Trump. And so that Trump's entire program, his entire agenda has been dictated by Putin ever since Putin bailed him out and gave him money. And because the one thing we know about Donald Trump is that he can be bought if you have $1 billion or even 250 million. And so
I just want to say that if you have $1 billion laying around, you can buy me too. Okay, I'm just saying.
You can rent me. But it's like, Sean and I had a conversation a couple years ago when the lotto got up to nearly $1 billion. And I said, the first thing I would do, or one of the first things after I pay off all my bills, is I go down to the Department of Children's Services and make sure every kid in foster care has a brand new suitcase, a brand new wardrobe, and the toys that he or she wants, and all the opportunities, all the bills paid for whatever treatment, whatever placement, so that every kid in the system would have abundance instead of poverty. And Sean looked at me and was like, that was a very, says, no, we're keeping all the money for ourselves. It was all pretend money. But I said, no, if you have $1 billion, you use it to make a difference wherever you can. And this is what I do not understand about even people who only have a few hundred million. Where they have the power to end hunger, to end homelessness, to end poverty in America. And instead, it's like, how can I make some more money and have more control over the rest of it? Dude, when is enough enough? When do you start using that money to be a great person?
When do you realize that you're a psychopath? Exactly right. And that's exactly it, David. It's probably why you and I have been such good friends for so long. Is the fact that I look at that sort of thing the same way. If if I had the sort of funds that Elon Musk has, I would use it to make the world a better place. My God, and I don't know. My God, you could the United Nations when Musk said here a while back, and about 8 years ago, or about 6 years ago, he said, tell me what it would take to end world hunger, and the United Nations took that to heart and said, hey, we could end world hunger $6 billion. That's what we could do. They had a whole, and they went to Musk with it, and Musk told them, oh well, yeah, whatever. And he wasn't serious about it, and yet this guy could spend $44 billion on a social media network that's losing him money every day. $6 billion is nothing to this asshole. Then again, I mean, how many billions did Jeff Bezos spend on some yacht that they had to disassemble at some ancient bridge in the Netherlands to even get out into the ocean? And that was his second yacht. How many fucking yachts do you need, for crying out loud? I mean, how many can you use in a day? I don't know. I don't know how that I could sit in a hot tub on a fantail of a yacht while I have the power to keep children from starving to death every day. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how you do that. But apparently it's easy because this is the world that we live in. And yet again, I was ranting while you were offline. Was the same thing. There are people that have no money that are just as fanatical on the other side that are bound and goddamn determined to make the world a worse place based on their principles. And they keep voting for shit that makes the world a worse place because they're not getting everything that they want, but they don't like the choices. And again, as I said, some woman yelled at me last night online on Twitter about for the Democrats because of genocide. Well, that's look, I get it, man. I do. I understand your sacred principles, but you've demonstrably made the world a worse place. How do you rectify that? How do you manage that in your brain? And again, we go back and forth. This is the world that we live in, and like I said, this is why when people keep asking me. I haven't written long stuff in a while. Part of it is because it's taking me a month to recover from surgery, but also for the fact of where the hell do you start? Because there comes a point when you've been doing this for 20 or 30 years, you start to really feel like you're pissing into the wind. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? And there are
absolutely.
days where
The
I get up
conversation,
in the
the
morning.
conversation of, yeah, I know you don't like the Democratic candidate, but the Republican is worse. And say, oh, I'm not going to vote for the lesser of two evils. Oh, great. Then you end up with the worser of two evils. And then they have the gall to complain about how awful. It's like,
Right,
dude, give me a break. It's like I'm really tired of this bullshit. I really want an end to it.
right.
I want to be hopeful again, like I was when in the '60s. We were going to go to the moon, and we were going to end poverty, and we were going to make a difference in the world. It's like I want to go back
Well,
to that.
I agree. That's the thing. The world's always going to have these. It's always going to have its problems. But for God's sake, man, the entire world gets up every morning with a sense of existential dread. I mean, my God, man, can we? I would just like to live my. I will say this. Of all the times that I've lived here, that period for a while there under Obama, where Putin was not the Russian president, and we were space, and it just felt like we were moving in the right direction, where you didn't have to get up every day and think, "My God, what horrible fucking thing's going to happen today." Hey, one thing I would note, I saw a comment go by there. Carrie said she didn't think she'd ever live to see the day Jim Wright can be bought. Well, look, I hope you noticed the number there because it was $1 billion. All right, I'm not
Wait a
going
minute.
for
Let me
cheap
check my
here.
bank
Okay,
account.
like David said, I can be rented for $20. But if you want to buy me, it's going to need about eight figures. It's going to be about eight zeros in that space. No, the thing is though, is that it's we wake up every morning with a sense of dread nowadays. The whole world. It's not just us; it's the whole world. And we
Well,
should be.
let me tell you this, and some people are not going to like what I have to say, but Sean and I, we have these long conversations, It's convenient. He brings me a beer, or I'm getting coffee or whatever. We stand in the kitchen and talk for about 20 minutes or sometimes longer. And we realized the amount of stress that we could be buying into would be, we would walk around every day. It would be worse than, we left LA because we couldn't deal with the stress of the traffic and the people and the homeless and the tweakers and the drug addicts and the traffic. Did I mention the traffic? And you would drive from gridlock to gridlock, and they put up a 5-story apartment building blocking our sunlight. And Sean says it's time to leave LA. So we would have these conversations here that we have a good house in a good location with neighbors we actually love, and pretty much everything we need is within driving distance. And so we didn't notice what it was like to be stress free until we got out of Los Angeles, because it was the frog in the boiling water, 1 degree at a time. Los Angeles became untenable for us, and so we're talking about there are problems that we can handle. Like, the snow is up to here. We go out with this. He goes out with the snow blower, right? We need to take care of something. Yeah, there are problems that we can handle, that we can make a difference in. There are other things that, and it doesn't matter what opinions we have, we cannot make a difference. And so once we sorted things out, this is what we can do over here. This is what we cannot do. Why are we wasting our time having opinions on it? And unfortunately, the political situation is something that neither Sean nor I nor anyone in this house can do anything to change. Um, we can work with it where we have to, because we are, I will say this: we are living in privilege where most people are not. Uh,
Right.
and just the same, we worry about every month's bills. We worry about this and that and the other thing. We do have these worries, but they're not the same worries that somebody living in a dinky little apartment is going to be homeless next week. We're not.
Right.
We're, so, but the thing is we have decided there are certain things we are going to ignore and not pay attention to for our own mental health, because we have 2 little kids to raise here, to take care of
Right.
here, and our mental health is the only thing we can give them sometimes.
Right, and I think that's important, and I think that's important for the audience, and I think those are, I mean, that's probably 50% of the questions that I see every day, of the thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of comments that go across my screens every day. What do we do? Well, the first thing you do, the first thing that you have to do, and this is, I say this as somebody who has been to war, where you spend 6 months without a break, where every day is absolute chaos and fear and one goddamn thing after another. I, the thing that you have to do is you have to find those moments in that chaos that bring you joy, that keep you balanced, that keep you anchored, that hold you to reality and remind you of the things that truly matter. And you have to do that. You have to, even in the chaos and horror of war, you have to remember those things and those people that make you smile, that make life worth. Don't, then you're buried under an avalanche of horror and dread and anxiety, and we wind up as a society with the horrible case of PTSD. And I'm not. That's not hyperbole. And nations can suffer from that. And it's probably a different term. I'm not a psychologist or a sociologist, but too much trauma, too much extended trauma for too long can damage human beings permanently. It it carves grooves into your brain, and you can never get away from it. You can maybe mitigate those, and I say that as a combat veteran, but nations can have that sort of thing happen to it. And I'm not sure that the United States has recovered from things like what happened on 9/11. We wallow in that shit every goddamn year. It's been 20 years. And yet every damn year on the anniversary of that horrible event, we show it on television again, and we have to watch those people die all over again every year. And every year you see things like never forget. Well, goddamn, man, we got our revenge. We killed 250,000 people that never did a goddamn thing to us. And don't tell me we didn't, because I was there. All right, we we destroyed nations, society. We knocked down the walls that protected us from the very kind of government that we're facing today as a result of that. So we got our revenge 10 times over, but every goddamn year that stuff is back on television again. And we spend a whole day watching that horrible scene of the people jumping from the top of the towers to keep from burning to death. And the camera follows them all the way down, and then they go find somebody that was related to that guy. They say a microphone in their face, and they say, "What were you thinking at that moment? What was he thinking? The hell are you talking about?" We all know what they were thinking. It's horrifying. We're all horrified, for God's sake. But every year we have to pick that scab open and relive that goddamn trauma. And I will tell you, that's a form of nationwide PTSD. It keeps us angry. It keeps us looking for revenge. You know, it's on the back of every fucking truck, every flag, and Punisher skull, and 3%er symbol, and every gun. We got to have these guns in case somebody flies an airplane into a building again or something. We got to have 13 nuclear aircraft carriers. We got to spend $1.5 trillion on stealth fighters that have no mission and that made no difference in 20 years of fighting terrorism. We we still talk about this sort of thing, the war on terrorism. Well, how's that going? Have we won? Is there less terrorism now? You know, and again, the entire nation's traumatized from this because we just won't let it go, and it's shaped the civilization that we live in. You can look out your window at any street in America, and half the vehicles going by are they look like technicals in Afghanistan, man. They're chubby tires and olive drab paint, and they've got flags flying from the back of them, and guys in the driver's seat with big bushy beards, and they're probably carrying a pistol under the seat or in their waistbands, and everybody's ready to fight everybody all the goddamn time. And you can't live in a society like that for a long time without there being dire consequences for long term communication, Matt. You were gone there for a minute, David.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was trying to go to full screen on my. I couldn't get the. I could not get my big desktop machine to the camera on it to log in, and so I went to the
Yeah.
laptop, and the laptop would log in with the camera, but I had no sound. I finally pulled out the.
No
I
sound.
have the iPad Pro, which I don't use a lot, but it logged in. It's like, but and somewhere there was a thing that popped up and says, how are you liking our software? And I said, your software bites the big one. It's like I
Yeah.
had to go to 3 machines before I could connect.
And to me, you know, my background has to do with computer systems, and you know, to me, computers are computers. But I've never been a fan of Apple. But I've recently bought a number of iPads, and I have Apple TV because all the good shit's on Apple TV nowadays, and and there is some really good stuff. I will say I watched For All Mankind, and by the time I got to the fourth season, I was just gritting my teeth. I mean, my goddamn, the drama in that show. It wasn't as thrilled as it, but I'm watching Silo now, and I will say Hugh Howey just hit it out of the park with that goddamn series. I was sucked in immediately by that whole series. I love Silo. It's just one of my favorite things in the world. But I mean, you know, so as much as I don't like Apple TV, I hate the Apple interface, that stupid remote control for Apple TV. I don't dare touch that goddamn thing. Every time I touch it, it does some weird shit. And it takes me 20 minutes to get back to what I was watching. But all that said, man, there's some good shows on that. There's
There,
some good shows on that channel.
there's some great people working on Apple
Yeah,
shows,
yeah, they
and
really got some talented writers and some
but Apple
really talented directors.
Apple needs to be a
You
walled
know,
garden. I had a long conversation
yeah.
for a few days with one of their vice presidents who was just retiring, and there's a lot to be admired over there, but they have to have a walled garden because every time they have tried opening themselves up, they end up cannibalizing their own product. So they have kept
Yeah, yeah,
themselves a whole other domain. You're either all Apple or you're all Microsoft, but you can't have a leg in both places. You can't stand in both worlds. And there are some people who have to because they have to have their software available, whatever. But you are either all Apple or all Microsoft because the two are
right,
deliberately not compatible. There's a few companies like
right,
Chrome that will and so on, and Microsoft will make its products available for Apple users. But in terms of interface, I have problems with the Apple interface. I have no idea how do I get from here to there. How do I run this app? How do I do? I mean,
right.
it's just
For me,
it's
it's you
frustrating.
know, it's for me, it's the interface. I don't know. Maybe we've reached an age or something, but it's like I said, the goddamn remote control for the latest app. I've got a couple different Apple TV boxes. I've got one out here in the office, and then the one on the big screen in the house. And the one in the house is that's the latest version. And the goddamn remote controller, that's like alien technology, man. You touch it wrong and all of a sudden it's listening for voice commands and won't go back. If you breathe out it wrong, you're looking at it the wrong way. I'm like, for God's sake, man, I just need
Well, let
four
me
buttons, up, down, left, right, and
let me
enter,
give you a
for
little
God's
history
sake.
because I was there. It's like when I grew up, there was
Ah,
only one way to tune a radio. It didn't matter. You could tune any radio. There was only one way to make a phone call. Every phone you had
right.
the dial or the punch numbers, right? And there was only one way to tune a TV set. You changed the channel, and there were the other knobs for tuning, but that was it. And then
There was
and that was
was there,
just
was,
the
was there
same
only one way to
standards.
write a Mastodon, or did you have multiple?
Yeah, no, but I mean, the point is and in the early days of computing there were a lot of articles and
Yeah, oh yeah,
we are got to set a standard that you can get wherever you want in 3 clicks, and there was the menu across the top, which was before even Windows, before the Macintosh. There was the file, the edit, the this and the help, so that
right,
you could use any piece of software. And then something happened where everybody said we want to have our own interface, and so now
right.
you buy a new piece of software and there's no standardization among interfaces anymore. And it's really terrible with your TV when you just want to watch a show, and what pops up is, do you want to watch Netflix or Hulu or blah blah or Disney or blah blah or blah. I was like,
Well,
I
I,
just want to watch a show. I don't even know where it is anymore. I don't know how to find it.
That's okay. Well, I mean, you've been in my house. I mean, you've been in my you
Yeah,
watch TV in my living room, and I swear to God, I've got this enormous curved screen Samsung TV that hangs out above the fireplace in my house, and there's I know there's like seven different
your
inputs
family
into this
knows how to use it.
goddamn
You
thing.
don't.
There's like seven inputs into this thing, and it just I mean it takes me 20 minutes. My wife has added something to it because we watch our grandson all the time. In fact, he's in the house right now, and so the TV about 90% of the time is either on Bluey or we're
Yeah,
in the big
we
blue
got
house or
that.
something. I don't even know how to get to those
Yeah, neither
things.
do
I don't even
I.
know where they live
Neither do
in
I. I
New
had
York.
to take care of Layla the other day, and sit her down in front of the TV, and and I'm sorry, you're gonna have to watch Worldwide Federation of Wrestling right now.
I don't know how to change the goddamn channel anymore. And again, I don't know if that's I don't know if that's the complexity of multiple interfaces, or just the fact that we've reached the age where my brain is full and I can't fit
It's
anymore.
not
I used
that.
to
It's
this stuff
like
used to be
the
intuitive enough.
the rule in
God,
the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s when we were inventing this thing was 3 clicks to get you, never more than 3 clicks. Now, if you have to call AT&T on the phone to try and arrange something, or almost, and the phone menus, you go through endless clicks before you can even get near a human being it's like the menus, the phone, and the first thing I say to the person who, when I finally connect to the person, your phone menu stinks, and that's part of the reason why people hate you, not just your company, you in particular. And then they get, and then finally,
that's right. I got
but
your
they don't
name.
care because they have an Indian accent. They're not even on this continent, and it's like, I want to talk to a human being who understands the interface, and there aren't anymore. What they have is scripts to follow. See, we have so denatured the concept of public service.
Oh, hey, you're about to, but you're not going to have to deal with any of that now because it's all going to be AI. In fact, I called I needed to do something, and I was talking to I don't know, some insurance company last week, and I got AI. It wasn't. It took me a minute to realize I wasn't talking to a person.
Yeah,
It wasn't voicemail. It was actually an artificial. It was an artificial person
yeah,
that was
yeah.
talking. I'm like, what the
I've
hell?
ended up talking to.
I finally asked. I
But I
didn't
do want
realize. I didn't
to acknowledge. I do want to. I've been owed an income tax refund for more than a year, and I finally, and here in Vermont,
Yeah.
and my Brad Sherman was my congressman, but his one of his assistants said, "Oh, we can't help you. You moved out of state." So I sent a letter to Bernie Sanders, who is now my senator, and got a phone call like 2 days later from a fellow named Andrew, one of the assistants, and I said, "Here's my problem." He said, "Send me all your paperwork on this." I did. And within a matter of 2 weeks, I got my income tax refund that I've been fighting for 2 years. But he was a real person. I called him to thank him. He called me to tell me what was going on. Everything. Bob, you got to do whatever you're doing. Stop it or turn off your microphone.
Well,
Um,
we're out
but
of time anyway. Yeah, but I like. Yeah, exactly.
but I actually talked to a real human being in Bernie Sanders' office. Now I don't care what political party he's aligned with. I'll vote for the man because he's got real people. Fortunately, he's aligned with the right political. It's like I love Bernie Sanders. He's magnificent. I disagree with.
But I'm dealing with social media. I had a problem with I don't know, something on Facebook, on the Facebook platform, because I monetize on that platform, and it's a verified account, and so I'm supposed to be able to get through to a real person. But for you to get through to anybody real at that company, you've got to go through 3 layers. It used to be automation, now it's AI, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like an episode. It's like something that you would have written for Star Trek in the 1960s.
Yeah. Hey, blame me. Yeah, blame me.
I'm dealing with the goddamn
Go ahead.
M5
Blame
for
me.
crying.
Blame me.
That's
I've
exactly
been
it.
blamed for worse. Blame me.
Somebody read one of your scripts from the 1960s, and I'm
It
dealing with the
wasn't me.
M5,
It
man.
wasn't me. I'm in favor of real human beings.
It's horrible. I see everybody's pinging us about the time. Yeah, it's we're hitting the
All right. Yeah,
thing
Bob,
here.
it's time for the commercials.
But
Please. I do
book
want to recommend Jim Wright's Stone Kettle Station, which is a great website, great blog to follow, especially if your
right.
blood pressure gets too low. You should always read Stone Kettle Station. Your blood pressure will come right back up. And I have a Facebook page and a Patreon page. dgerrold.com is my online store. And Bob has an enormous number of books from alternative press. And the latest is, I have a story in it, is Alternative Truths. There's so many, I forget the names. And I have a copy here. It's like you can see the mist behind me. But check out Keona Dad, check out the press, because there's some new books coming out, and there's the one that's absolutely Alternative Liberties. Thank you. It's absolutely the one that you should buy because it is a remarkable book.
Right, and we sound like idiots because we're the people who wrote these things. I can't remember the titles because, like David said, there's so many of them lately. But there's some one is really probably the best thing that BQ Press has put together, and it's really a privilege to be part of it. And since David mentioned it, my particular website has been in stasis for about a month and a half now, mostly because I was recovering from surgery and because long form takes a lot out of me, and I haven't had a hell of a lot of time for it. But I'll be returning to full form here probably this week. I got to do some traveling here coming up this month, and tend to get back to full-time operations. And hopefully this summer we're out and about. There's a bunch of conventions I usually go to, and I usually wrap that around a photography tour of the national parks out west.
Oh,
I don't know how that's going to go this year. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to go.
Well, it'll get you away from
because
civilization for a while, at least the worst parts of civilization. So
right.
I do want
So we usually
to
spend time.
mention. Those of you know I have some connection with Star Trek. And one of the things about Star Trek is it said the way things are is not the way they have to be. We can do better. And there is a Star Trek museum in Ticonderoga, New York. It's a little out of the way, but it's worth visiting because they have an accurate reproduction of the original Star Trek sets. And I lead the tour the last Saturday of every month. But they also have visits from Bill Shatner and other Star Trek stars. And I recommend it if you ever need to restore your faith that we can build a better world. This is a place where you can go to replenish your sense of hope for the future. It reminds you that we will outlive this monstrosity and we will do better. We may have to wait until he has an aneurysm or whatever, but we will recover from this. I don't know what form it'll take, but I am confident that the inherent goodness of human beings, there will come a point where we say we have had enough. It's like that movie Network where you open the window and shout, "I'm mad as hell and I won't take it anymore." And I think we're headed for that point.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I see some stuff on here. Somebody asked if I was going to MissCon. Michelle asked if I was going to MissCon. I don't know. I haven't been invited this year. Probably. We'll see how that goes.
All right, Bob, we got to do
Like I said,
something about the software here so I can log on with my real camera and my real. It's like I don't mind logging on the iPad, but I would really like it if I could go back to using. So find out what's going on with Restream that they're not recognizing my camera because I mean, this is so supposedly state of the art crap over here.
in your crap. And
But my laptop wouldn't work, neither my laptop nor the desktop. I had to go use the iPad, and I had to log on with Safari, which is I don't know. I have no idea how this stuff works anymore. So I think you need to
I
tell
think that's true of
Restream
our
that they have
entire
a problem.
society nowadays. I have no idea how the hell it's working. So, all right, folks,
Yeah, and next time I'll be logging
Yeah.
on my phone.
So,
right.
so guys, as always, you all have made everyone happier by being here, despite all the f bombs, Jim.
Thank you.
Sorry. Well, like I said, I'm not really all that sorry about it. I try to rein that in normally, but the world that we live in now, I think that's the least of our problems. So, I think the
Well,
whole world's going to be using the f bomb. But
I just want to say thank you guys for participating in writing of Alternative Liberties, because Alternative Liberties has been an awesome book to work on, and we're meeting right after this to see if we can figure out how to do Alternative Liberties too, because I think David said it once that it's a very important book.
yeah,
It
Uh,
is. I think it's one of the most important books of the year.
I
And
agree.
so, thank you for the kind words. Thank you for your participation. And I'd like to thank all the editors that worked on that book and all the writers that worked on that book because they've made it a pleasure to be in the publishing business. So, with that said, guys, anything you want to say? Last minute words for the audience?
Please buy my books because I'm still writing. Actually, I'm writing some of my most interesting stuff. I've just had a writing spurt that has lasted about 6 months, and I've turned in about six really nice novellas. So check with Worlds of If. They're publishing most of my stuff or my longer stuff right now. So, and I've got two stories at Analog. So please keep reading. So yeah,
Right. Yeah, that's the big thing for me. I buy my pictures. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
I will have some fiction out this year, but right now, and I'm working on the long delayed and long requested book of photography. I'll be putting one of those, depending on how publishing on that goes. And so by that, there's still calendars available. And thanks for your support. On the other hand, I would also say the one final note is yeah, it's horrible and it's more horrible every day, but you're the people that are going to change it and it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be quick. The time for easy, simple, fast solutions that's gone. And whether it was your fault or somebody else's, that's the world that we live in now. And so it's an uphill climb, but you cannot lose your sense of optimism. You can't lose your ability to laugh even at the small things or to enjoy the things. Don't let these sons of bitches rob you of your ability to smile and to be hopeful and to be optimistic for the future.
Yeah. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Illegitimize non carborundum is the Latin
Goddamn
phrase.
right.
Don't let the yeah.
And
Yeah.
remember, like no matter how terrible it is, screaming the F bomb at the top of your lungs helps tremendously.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. And remember, uh, when the opportunity presents itself, vote while you still can. And if you're not out on the street with a sign in your hand when the call is put out, get out in the street with a sign in your hand when the call goes out. Um, be brave. So that said, thank you much, guys.